latest edition of the African Diaspora News channel, where we unravel the stories that shape our world and our community. Now, recently, the leader of Nigeria's military junta made some explosive accusations, alleging that Nigeria was colliding with France to destabilize Niger. Now, Nigeria has firmly denied these accusations, but this situation speaks to a deeper issue that we actually need to confront, which I believe is one that has been simmering beneath the surface of African unity for a very long time, which is our biggest downfall in the Pan-African movement might just be us, which is our fellow brothers and sisters. Now, let's take a step back here. The leader of Niger's military junta made serious claims about Niger's involvement with France in a bid to destabilize the junta-led government in Niger. He claimed that Nigerian authorities were not unaware of alleged French alliances with militant groups. His statement was clear. He said, and I quote, "Nigerian authorities are not unaware of this underhanded move." And let's be real. These kinds of accusations don't just come out of nowhere. They have the potential to unravel a lot of things, especially the relationship between two of the most influential countries in West Africa. But Nigeria's response, it's been staunch. I mean, Nigeria's national security advisor has described the claims as baseless and false. Now, Idris even went as far as to say, and I quote, "Nigeria has never engaged in any alliance, overt or covert, with France or any other country to destabilize Niger." So, what are we left with here? A diplomatic standoff between two African nations that once stood shoulder to shoulder, and a war of words that is now escalating to tensions. But here's where my personal thoughts come into play. I think it's something that all of us in the Pan-African movement should reflect on. And I mean, as much as I want to believe in African unity, and trust me, I do, right? I cannot ignore the reality that we're often our biggest obstacle when we talk about Pan-African movement. But when push comes to shove, it feels like our biggest threat is often not from the outside world, but from within our own ranks. I mean, let's be real. Nigeria and Niger are both powerful players in West Africa and both have a deep history in regional politics. But the reality is we're still grappling with a history of divided interest, national pride, and sometimes overright betrayal. If one country feels that another is working against its best interests, whether it's through alleged sabotage or a lack of support, things get complicated fast. And if we look at the Pan-African movement as a dream for the future of Africa, where we truly unite for the common good, then we have to ask ourselves, how can we achieve that unity if we can't even keep our own houses in order? Let's have a look.
Su sun ka zo tunda sun ga ta sama ne sojan Chad ke kai ma yan Boko Hari sai sun ka ba su makamai masu sabke jirgi. Faransa ta ba yan Boko Haram. Kwarai ku da jirgin Chad ya zo a halbe shi. Wannan abin tabbat 16 ga wata na October sun kai wannan. Sun ka kama su makamai. Don kaga tsibirin Chad Faransa sun aje. Rahoton da muka samu ga manyan yan ta'addan nan da muka kama sun ka ce muna to akwai wata shawara da ake yi amma shugabannin Najeriya sun san da ita. Shine akwai wani daji da aka ce ma gaba nan wajen Sokoto ga gayinsu yake. Dajin nan ana son a maida shi tsibiri ne na yan ta'adda waɗanda aka ce ma lakurawa. Wannan wasiƙa ta rijejeniya watan Mars wata na 3 rana 4 ga wannan wata an ka yi ta tsakanin yan Faransa da ISWAP ba Boko Haram.
Should continue to educate our people on this rhetoric and frivolous allegations. But if the action of China was as a result of our bilateral or renewed fraternal bilateral relations with France, I think it is a misplaced one, because Nigeria had long bilateral relations with France. The military junta knows that Nigeria is the largest trading partner with France in sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, in the African continent, Nigeria is number 4th, followed by behind Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. And the trading volume between France and Nigeria is about $3.5 billion. We have over 120 French companies that have been operating here in Nigeria. So that should not be a basis for France to, for Niger to feel insecure. We are a sovereign nation. They are a sovereign nation. They are taking decisions according to them. They want to reclaim their economic independence. Nothing wrong with that. But if they are overwhelmed, then they should not look for scapegoats. And that is why I said it's mind-boggling that despite the fact that our diplomatic channels are open, they are still functioning, this weighty allegation should have gone through the diplomatic channel to avoid all this unnecessary hitting of the polity. The second thing that I want to observe is that, yes, Burkina Faso, if you remember, I think, was it in July, made similar allegations whereby they accuse Benin and Ivory Coast that they are colluding with France, and that about 5 military bases were established in order to fuel insurgency in the Sahel, as well as destabilize Burkina Faso. And I think these two ECOWAS member countries have come out to refute that allegation.
Now, I'm not saying that Nigeria is guilty of anything, right? And I'm not here to make a definitive statement on that. But the truth is, accusations like this expose the fractures in our unity. And whether it's Nigeria's alleged ties to France or the tension between the military junta in Niger and its neighbors, we need to acknowledge that there are forces at play that can break the bond between us. And this isn't just about Niger and Nigeria, but it's a representation of the wider Pan-African struggle. And think about it, right? We've seen countries like Mali, Burkina Faso align themselves with Niger's junta, right? And effectively actually pulling away from the West African bloc and its economic sanctions. So these alliances formed largely because of shared military rule and anti-Western sentiment, which speaks to the divisions that exist within Africa itself. Now, Niger's effort to sever ties with France and expel foreign military presence in another example of this divide. On the one hand, you have countries like Nigeria, who has historically been aligned with Western powers and maintains a certain level of cooperation with them. And on the other hand, we have nations like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger rejecting what they see as foreign interference and attempting to chart their own course, even if that means moving away from the broader African regional agreements. But what does this mean for the African dream? I mean, if we can't even agree on how to handle our internal disputes without accusations of sabotage and betrayal, how can we expect to present a united front to the rest of the world? I mean, this is where the challenge lies for me personally. And as a proud African, I can't help but feel that sometimes we become caught up in our national interests, our pride, our power, our influence, and that we lose sight of the bigger picture. The Pan-African dream was always about us overcoming these petty divisions to rise together as one. But the truth is, we've often been our own worst enemies. Now, at the end of the day, this isn't just about Nigeria and Nigeria. This is about all of us and our collective future. The question we really need to ask ourselves is, are we truly willing to put the Pan-African ideal first? Or will we continue to allow internal conflicts and outside influences to drive a wedge between us? Now, in the meantime, I hope the leaders of both Nigeria and Niger can find a way to actually resolve this conflict peacefully and collaboratively, because the truth is our future as Africans depends on our ability to set aside differences and to work together and to rise above the forces that actually seek to divide us. What are your thoughts on this? Please, let's continue the conversation in the comment section. We really want to hear from you. And while you edit, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That's it from me. Till we meet again, it is